There we go. Welcome to our webinar on metabolic syndrome. We're so glad you're here. I'm Helen Barada. I'm the Director of Development with First Place for Health. And so I'd like to open us up in prayer, and then I'll introduce you to our speaker. Lord Almighty, I thank you so much for this opportunity to come, to be with you. We are with people all over the world, literally, and we thank you for the technology that allows us to get together and listen and learn. And so today, as we ask questions, as we listen to Diane, our speaker, Lord, I ask for you to reveal to us what our next right thing is to do. How can this impact us? How can we be healthy for you, Lord Jesus? And we ask this in your mighty name. Amen. All right, so our speaker, Diane, I met Diane through Vicki Heath, our national director. I've been to Edisto a bunch of times. Diane is one of our fitness instructors that she's been at, if you come to our wellness week down in Round Top, Diane is always there. And she's also in our virtual groups. So she is a friend. She's a very familiar with First Place for Health and good friends. And so she is a nurse, she's a fitness instructor, and she also is a downhill skier. And you're gonna meet her in a minute, but she's kind of banged up. I just wanna warn you. So I'm gonna introduce her. Diane, come on. I know her husband Cameron heard. Diane, come on and let's hear from you.
Well, hello, Helen. Thank you for that. I am a little banged up, and I just want you to know, in case I grimace or say ouch, that's why we ended up racing this past weekend on a Div 1 course. I am a Div 2 racer, which we call a recreational racer. So the course is much longer, but I took a pretty good tumble and sprained various places in my left hand, but also that hand and my ski pole landed under my right breast. So I have some inflamed cartilage between my ribs. That's what hurts right now. So if you kind of see me do something a little funny, that's why.
Well, I think the good news is that you didn't break anything. She has been to the doctor and it's all been verified. And can you show us that trophy that you showed me earlier? Come on, Diane. I think they should see that you're a winner. You placed, right?
Yes.
Actually, where did you place in your race?
So we had 9 flights, and I was third in my flight for all 4 races.
Cool.
So I beat 8 other people in my flight. Well, not 8 because I was third, but anyway, out of 8, I was third.
Cool.
9 out of 9, I was third.
Very cool. And you have to leave Edisto, South Carolina, I'm guessing, to go get to this snow, right? You fly a lot?
This was driving about 8.5 hours from Augusta. So yeah.
Okay.
All
right. Well, Diane, I think we're ready for you to take it away.
All righty. Well, Helen shared with you, I'm going to talk to you today about metabolic syndrome. And metabolic syndrome, are you doing the PowerPoint, Helen? Okay. Metabolic syndrome is defined as a cluster of conditions that occur together. And when these happen, it increases our risk of developing heart disease, stroke, and diabetes. And this cluster consists of several conditions. And the first one is increased blood pressure. The second one is high blood sugar. The third one is excess body fat around our waist. The fourth is an abnormal cholesterol level. And the fifth is having high triglyceride levels. And the first formal definition of metabolic syndrome entered textbooks, medical textbooks, just 21 years ago in 1998. And according to the American Heart Association, 47 million Americans have metabolic syndrome. Y'all, that's almost a staggering 1 in 6 people. And according to the American Heart Association and the National Institutes of Health, there are 5 risk factors that make up metabolic syndrome. Diagnosis requires having 3 or more of these risk factors and/or the administration of medication to control them. These are a large waist size. For women, that's 35 inches or greater, and for men, that's 40 inches or greater. High triglycerides of 150 milligrams or greater. A low good cholesterol. In women, that would be a cholesterol level less than 40, and with men, that's a cholesterol level less than 50. A high fasting blood glucose level, that's going to be a value that's greater than 100 or greater. And then the last one, the fifth one, is high blood pressure, which is now defined as 130/80 or greater. So you need to know that in 2017, the American College of Cardiology and the American Heart Association released new guidelines that define how to manage hypertension. Prior to the publication of these new guidelines, hypertension was defined as a blood pressure greater than 140/90. When using that threshold, the old threshold, 32% of the American population had hypertension. Now, with the new guidelines, approximately 103 million individuals, or 46% of Americans, are considered to have hypertension. And I just want to let you know, in my place for nutrition, my screen's not that good, on page 91 is a really good chart on blood pressure, and it's very current, hot off the press. So it has the correct information. Helen.
So did you want to do a poll and see how people are, how they work in there? Is it time for that yet?
You can do that, yes.
Sure. Okay. You guys, we're just interested. This is just a poll that is going to see how many of us exhibit any of these risk factors. This is just so identify all that apply to you. And that includes even if you're taking medication or something like this. And this is private information. It won't be shared individually or anything. We're just polling everybody together. We just kind of want to see if you were looking at all of us, and you can check all that apply. So you should be able to check multiple ones if you'd like to. So it's really a way of just, we thought we would see what ones do people worry about, what are the ones that you all might have that apply to you, so we can talk about those maybe more than others. So, all right, looks like 50% of the people are voting, so way to go. And you have to hit the submit button in order for it to go. So if you're taking it on your phone or your tablet or on your computer, just remember you might have it filled out, but if it doesn't disappear off your screen, it means you have to hit submit or enter or something like that, so we know what's going on. So I'm going to open it up for just a couple more minutes, but it's looking pretty cool. And we did list those little math formulas that she talked about, the thresholds, I guess it is.
Mm-hmm.
All right, here we go. We're going to end the poll, and here you go. We're sharing the results. And what do you think, Diane? Looks like the winner is large waist size. That's definitely, know that. And high blood pressure would be the next. Mm-hmm. And then it looks like triglycerides and fasting glucose levels are, they're neck and neck. And having low good cholesterol. Yeah, low good cholesterol. It almost sounds right. So instead of having high cholesterol, you don't have enough good cholesterol. Isn't that what that means? Yeah.
Yes.
All right. What do you think of that?
I think some people are at risk for developing metabolic syndrome, and so they need to take some of the information I'm going to share toward the latter part of this and see what they can do to change those values.
Okay, cool.
All right.
Back to the PowerPoint, I guess.
Yes. So we're currently going to talk about contributing factors that can lead to metabolic syndrome. And some of these factors we cannot control. They're just things that happen, and that's just life. And the first one is age. The risk of metabolic syndrome developing increases with our age as we get older. The second one is race. The syndrome runs in families and is more common among Hispanics, African Americans, Asians, and Native Americans. Having a family medical history, this risk increases with close relatives, and that's generally, we're looking at 3 generations, who have diabetes or heart disease. And then hormonal imbalance. For instance, polycystic ovarian syndrome is related to hormonal imbalance, metabolic syndrome, obesity, diabetes, and heart disease. Inflammation throughout our body, and blood that clots too easily. Okay. Next, I'll share some factors that we can control. We can make a difference with these things. The first one is an unhealthy lifestyle. Physical inactivity and a sedentary lifestyle contribute to the development of metabolic syndrome. The second one is eating an unhealthy diet. When we eat a diet that is high in unhealthy processed foods, that plays a role in our potential to develop metabolic syndrome. Smoking, it's just not good for anything. Insulin resistance. Insulin is a hormone that helps the body use glucose, which is formed or made from the food that we eat, as energy. In people with insulin resistance, the insulin doesn't work as well, so the body keeps making more and more and more of it to cope. But then the glucose levels continue to rise, which can eventually lead to diabetes. Insulin resistance is closely related to excess weight in our midsections. But get this, losing just 5 to 7% of your total body weight can reduce those insulin levels. For example, if you weigh 180 pounds, that's a minimum of 9 pounds. And that sounds really doable. Having diabetes is a contributing factor. The likelihood of developing or having metabolic syndrome increases with a history of gestational diabetes, which is being pregnant, having diabetes while you're pregnant, or having a family history of type 2 diabetes. Another risk factor is obesity, especially our abdominal obesity. Experts say that metabolic syndrome is becoming more common because of rising obesity rates. And I just want to share the current obesity rates with you. This is from the CDC from 2018, just last year. So of the adult population, ages 20 to 39, 35.7% are obese. Ages 40 through 59, 42.8% are obese. And 60 and older, 41% are obese. And where we're really seeing the fastest increase in obesity is in our youth. Children ages 2 through 19 is now up to 18.5% obese. So we really need to change something that we're doing. And then I said having the extra body fat in our middle can, for whatever reason, it seems to increase the risk of developing metabolic syndrome. And then other diseases and conditions. The risk of metabolic syndrome increases if you have a history of cardiovascular disease, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, which is having triglycerides and other fats too high levels in your liver, and then gallstones and sleep apnea. There are resulting complications of having metabolic syndrome. You can develop, next slide, Helen. You can develop diabetes, which can lead to insulin resistance, and your glucose levels will continue to increase, and then you can develop diabetes. In cardiovascular disease, your high cholesterols and your high blood pressure can contribute to the buildup of plaque in the arteries. And these plaques can cause our arteries to narrow and harden or develop into clots. And those clots and the narrowing and hardening of the arteries can lead to a heart attack or a stroke. There is good news about dealing with metabolic syndrome. There are treatments that we can do, but it requires prevention and lifestyle changes. Next slide. Having metabolic syndrome or any of its components requires aggressive lifestyle changes to delay or prevent the development of serious health problems. And experts agree that metabolic syndrome can be prevented in the same way it should be treated, by making these following lifestyle changes. We already have exercise up there. So research shows that physical inactivity, and I want you to really hear this, physical inactivity is the second leading preventable cause of death in the United States. And guys, it's literally killing us. The American Heart Association recommends gradually building up to exercising on most days of the week for 30 to 60 minutes. Now remember, you can break your exercise up into even 3 10-minute sessions especially if you have time constraints. Those 3 10-minute sessions have been shown to be just as beneficial as a 30-minute session. And you've heard me say this, some of you have heard me say this before, some exercise is always better than none, and more is better than less.
Yeah.
Yes. So our next one is to eat a healthy diet. You want your diet to consist of fruits and vegetables, lean proteins, whole grains, soluble fiber like oats and beans, and a low-fat dairy. You want to limit your saturated fats, cholesterol, sugar, and salt. You want to avoid processed foods, artificial sweeteners, sodas, coffee, drinks, refined carbohydrates, and alcohol. The third thing you can do is eat healthy fats. There is such a thing as healthy fats. So you have polyunsaturated fats and monounsaturated fats. Your polyunsaturated fats or your omega-3 fats may help to lower your cholesterol levels and support your heart health. Examples of the polyunsaturated fats, that's a mouthful, are salmon or albacore tuna, walnuts, canola oil, flaxseed, and eggs. Your monounsaturated fats help to improve your cholesterol levels, which can therefore decrease your risk of heart disease. Examples of your monounsaturated fats are nuts, olive oil, avocados, and your natural peanut butters. A recent study found that insulin-resistant dieters had less belly fat, that's our thick middles, our waistlines, when eating less fats than their counterparts who ate carbohydrates or saturated fats. So the other thing you can do is to lose weight. Losing as little as 10% of your body weight can help lower your blood pressure, your blood sugar, and your blood cholesterol levels. So we've been talking about our waist size. We want to reduce that, especially if we're greater than 35 for the women and 40 for the men. So when we carry weight around the middle of our bodies, that is an indication of excess visceral fat, which is a key factor in the development of metabolic syndrome, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, and certain cancers. Do you want to let me finish that one, or you want to go ahead?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So when you do need to have visceral fat. That is an essential fat that really, it cushions and protects our internal organs. But when we have too much visceral fat, it can also cause significant complications during abdominal surgeries, as well as cause those same surgeries to take sometimes up to 6 hours longer. Okay. Did you want to, where did everybody?
Well, we have some questions. And
okay.
So first off, people wanted to know the chart that you referenced at the very beginning that was in My Place for Fitness. Can you tell us again what page that was on?
Oh, I'm sorry, it's in My Place for Nutrition.
Oh, nutrition. Okay, that makes sense.
I may have said fitness. And it's page 91.
Okay, so it's 91 in My Place for Nutrition. Awesome. So I just wanted to, someone asked me about that. So that makes sense. And then also I just wanted to point people to the healthy oil section in My Place for Nutrition, which is on page 48, which as it turns out, the superfoods, the fats that you were just talking about, just is part of also what you're talking about, eating healthy oils and stuff it's listed in there as well. So I just wanted to put people in there. And then also some of those proteins you were talking about, fish and stuff, are part of our superfoods in that too. So the other question that we had was about the insulin resistance and about the difference with metabolic syndrome. Is there a difference? And is it different or is it the same? They've heard it referred to as the same.
It's essentially the same, but you remember you have to have at least 3 of those 5 factors that I talked about at the beginning to be considered to have metabolic syndrome. So you could still have I just drew a blank, the insulin resistance, but not have metabolic syndrome yet if you don't have the other factors as well. two more of the other factors.
Yeah, so isn't insulin resistance, I thought, related to, one of the diabetes, pre-diabetic? We get one of our questions that we got ahead of time was about their being diagnosed as a pre-diabetic. And so it's one of the things might become insulin resistant. That's the thing that people don't want to become. You want your insulin to work.
Right. When you do have insulin resistance, you are considered to be pre-diabetic. And that should be a red flag. That is the time when you really want to change your diet and start exercising or change your exercise to really try to lose some weight through both your diet and exercise program.
Right. And then the other point in the My Fitness book, in our My Fitness book, it talks about knowing your numbers, and it talks about the hip to waist ratio to help you. It's one of the things that you'll be figuring out when you're in there. So that's one of the important things. And that is, we talk about hip to waist to hip ratio, and that those numbers that you were referring to is on page 42 and 43. And one of the things I completely forgot that Diane thought you might want to have is a calculator, because in a little bit, she's going to give you some numbers so you can calculate where you are in some certain things. So I said, most of us probably have a telephone that has a calculator on it. That's what I was saying. I bet you most of us have a phone right by us. I don't know. Are you like me? My phone is always very close by. So anyway, FYI, if you guys want to get your calculator, if you don't have one, or a piece of paper or something so you can write. So thank you for everyone with the questions. And let's see if we have one person. We'll get to this question in a little bit. It's about how I put God in all this. We'll get to that at the end. So it's a good question. Good one. All right, go ahead with your PowerPoint or wherever you want to go.
Okay, we're on the, and I can't see anything. Did you do something with me or?
No, you may have done something, but I see you. So
Okay.
I'm sorry. You can do Alt Tab maybe and bring me back. I probably slid off the screen somewhere.
Okay, well, that'll work. Okay, do we still have the PowerPoint up?
We don't. I can though, and that might be. So we're on the SIP green tea. You want to go to that one? The one that's, yep. Okay, go for it. I'm
All right.
getting it up.
Okay, so the next thing that you can do is to sip green tea. And beverage contains weight loss promoting compounds called catechins. And catechins have been shown to accelerate fat burning. The studies have shown that you need to have 3 cups a day for this to be effective. And I have to tell you a little funny, when I gave this presentation at Wellness Week, the green tea had been sitting in the basket all week long. And all of a sudden it was all gone. So those people that took that need to let us know how well that worked for them. The other thing you can do is to stop smoking. If you are smoking, please do your best to quit, because smoking worsens the health consequences of metabolic syndrome. Another thing we need to do is to manage our stress. When we're under stress, our body releases cortisol, and cortisol is a hormone that encourages the storing of belly fat, especially in our midsection, because our midsection has higher numbers of cortisol receptors and a greater blood supply. So this means that greater blood supply brings that cortisol to our middles. So we need to do physical activity, deep breathing exercises, prayer, meditation, go to the beach, other stress management techniques, whatever works for you that will help improve your emotional and physical health.
I'm thinking the people with 30 to 40 inches of snow are not going to the beach quite yet.
No. Another thing a lot of us, especially women, are lacking in is enough sleep. We need to be getting at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep per night, because do you know why? When we don't get enough sleep, guess what? Our body spikes cortisol levels. So that much more, we can be sending that much more to our bodies, our middle sections, when we don't get enough sleep. Get outside, get more sunshine. So research suggests that vitamin D partners with calcium, and this helps to stamp out that cortisol. You can increase vitamin D through sun exposure and D-rich foods such as salmon, swordfish, rainbow trout, tuna, and fortified cereals. And then you also want to schedule regular physician checkups. Those checkups can have your blood pressure, cholesterol, and your blood sugar all monitored on a routine schedule, whatever it needs to be for you, because metabolic syndrome does not have any symptoms. So you want to keep a check on those things. And I want to share a study with you. I just thought this was intriguing. There was a study that shows how well lifestyle changes can impact and prevent, not yet, metabolic syndrome. So researchers divided more than 3,200 people who were pre-diabetic, which means that they already had impaired glucose tolerance or insulin resistance. And they split them into two groups. The one group made lifestyle changes by exercising 2.5 hours a week and eating a low-calorie, low-fat diet. After 3 years, the people in the lifestyle group were 41% less likely to have metabolic syndrome than those who continued to, who did not get any treatment. The lifestyle changes were still this is really important too. The lifestyle changes were about twice as effective over using a diabetes medication. And so if you really don't want to do medications, think about making these changes. And we see it all the time, especially in our exercise class. Some people they're sitting on the fence and they will drop even 10 pounds through diet and exercise, and those numbers come down. So really consider making those types of changes. So you can also combat, we've talked a little bit about these other things that you can do, but also another effective way to combat metabolic syndrome is through exercise. And I've got a picture of one of my classes, and I just want you to know that exercise can be fun. Is that up, Helen? Yeah.
It will be in a second.
There it is. You saw a glimpse of it briefly. So yes, we worked out with pumpkins instead of weights. I don't remember if this was Halloween, certainly in the fall, and we worked out with those pumpkins the whole time instead of weights. And we had a lot of fun. So, it can be fun. And there's several different types of exercises that you can do. So do you want to do interval training or steady pace training? That's the next slide.
Okay, hold on.
And the answer to both of those is yes. Both interval training and steady pace training types of exercises are beneficial. So this is where I wanted you to have your calculators. If you have your calculator, take the number 220 and subtract your age from it. And that answer you get, go ahead and circle it. That is the maximum highest heart rate you should have when you work out. Now I'm going to talk about this interval training a little bit. So the number, your answer that you circled, take that and multiply it by 90% or 0.9. That number is going to give you your maximum heart rate. Now I know I just said maximum heart rate, but that's the absolute highest your heart rate should ever get, that first answer. So now you've got your maximum heart rate. Now take that same circled answer and multiply that by 70% or 0.7, and then that is your lower heart rate result. So as I talk about this, you'll be able to plug in your own numbers. So research shows that sufficient exercise at a moderate pace, which can be that 70% number, or at an interval training pace, which alternates high spurts of higher heart rate at 90%, and it's followed by periods of rest with a lower heart rate of around 70%. Both of those can help you with weight loss. And so I kind of took, so Helen has.
Well, I just wanted to point out, if you want to look in My Place for Fitness and go to page 40, you actually can write that number in there. Mary Ward, who wrote this book, has in there how to calculate your maximum heart rate with how Diane just explained it. So for those of you guys who have your book, you can go ahead and write that. And she's has 55 to 85%. So just wanted to, FYI, if you guys wanted to write that in there, there's a place to write it in your book.
Perfect. So one of the types of interval training is known as HIIT, or high intensity um, training. And what that does, and you can set your timer different ways, but the traditional way is doing 20 seconds of an exercise, giving it everything you have, and then 10 seconds of rest. And so when we say that 20 seconds of intense exercise, that's when your heart rate should be at that higher level. And then when you're at that 10-second of rest, your heart rate should be coming down to that lower level. And you just keep that pace going. And Helen has her own personal chart she is willing to share with you. So that's kind of what it should look like. And that is excellent exercise outcome. And when you're doing that, your metabolism will also stay higher for significantly longer. And most of us probably throughout the day, over doing cardio, which is going to have a spike while you're doing the cardio, and then your metabolism comes right back down. So this is a very beneficial form of exercise.
This is one of those things. My husband and I bought a total gym from Costco, and we do it together. And so while and we have two little cardio machines, and so while when one of us is doing the weightlifting part on the total gym, the other one is doing the cardio part. And so we just switch back and forth, back and forth. But the first time I saw this graph, I was like, wow, look at that. Like this is what that means, so the low parts are actually when I'm doing the strength training, because I'm, my heart rate is recovering. And then the peaks are when I'm on my ski machine doing, and I now that Diane and I'm like, okay, I got to make sure my max isn't too high. So I've been working on that.
Very good. Thanks for sharing that, Helen. So weight loss through a nutritious diet will reduce the risk of metabolic syndrome, but success may be significantly greater when exercise is added. Those who do interval training experience greater improvement in your blood sugar control, insulin response, and overall good cholesterol, which are all important factors to prevent or control metabolic syndrome. The second question is, should you do vigorous or moderate activity? And those answers are also yeses. Both of those are beneficial as well. And I just have some results of studies that I want to share with you from these. So 47% of participants who completed an interval training program for 4 months, 4 months, y'all, and that can be 3 times a week, they reduced their metabolic syndrome. Now, this compares with 36% who trained with constant moderate intensity. So either one is beneficial, but if you need to make a drastic change quickly, then you want your exercise to be more vigorous. Vigorous activity reduced the risk of metabolic syndrome by 1/3 in both males and females. Interval training 2 to 3 times a week is more effective than weight loss and moderate exercise every day in controlling metabolic syndrome. So again, if you don't like to exercise or you have time constraints, shoot for that, 45, 50 minute, 3 times a week. And research shows that getting 150 minutes of moderate to intense physical activity each week can lower your risk of heart disease, high blood pressure, and high cholesterol levels. Now, is all intensity created equal? That answer is no. Now, okay, I did leave something out. That didn't make sense. Is all exercise intensity created equal? That makes more sense. The answer is still no. While any level of physical activity is better than none, when it specifically comes to metabolic syndrome, research suggests that more intense physical activity produces the greatest improvement over the shorter period of time. Now, is resistance training important? Very. It is essential to include resistance training to build muscle mass because muscle plays a major role in reducing the symptoms associated with metabolic syndrome. The number of muscle fibers declines with age. There's that age thing again. But, well, let me finish this thought. From age 30 to 70, we can lose more than 25% of the strength fibers in our muscles. Resistance exercises can slow down and even reverse the aging process by building muscle mass and strength. And as our physical strength increases, mitochondrial function also improves. And what does that mean? It just means that we have better production of fuel for our muscles, as well as improved circulation and the regulation of blood glucose in our blood, our muscle, and our fat. And so the boost in mitochondria means that more of our fat is getting burned. So you're becoming leaner and stronger. Yay, good thing. So what exactly is resistance training? That is any exercise that causes your muscles to contract against an external resistance. And the goal of resistance training is to get stronger, more toned, or to increase your muscular endurance. You can choose any of those reasons or even some others. But your exercise, your external resistance can be dumbbells, exercise tubing or bands, your own body weight, bottles of water, that's where that came from, and even pumpkins or any other object that causes your muscles to contract. So if you haven't used weights or you're thinking about adding weights or you're already using weights, how do you know that your weight is the right amount to use? So anytime you do a set of reps, let's just say I'm going to do 8 bicep curls. That 8th curl should be tough for me to do with the amount of weight I have. If you're just starting out, you may want to do a 2 or 3 pound. If you've been using weights and you're just not, it's no effort whatsoever to do that rep, then you probably want to go up in your weight. The more effective you are in using the appropriate amount of weight for your exercise, the more you will see your body become leaner and more fit. And just to give you an example, in one session of our exercise class, which was 8 weeks, I went up 2 pounds in my weights and I lost 3 inches just in my waist over an 8-week period. So if you're going to go through exercises and use the weights, use it to where you get the maximum amount of benefit from it. Yes.
So we have some questions before we go further, and we also have a poll that we wanted to ask people about too, maybe. But one of the questions was regarding sugar, and it's really detailed, like what kind of sugar, what's the best, is fruit bad, what's the quantity, when should we eat fruit? And so I would say for both Diane and I, we're not nutritionists. If you look in the My Place for Fitness, there's a whole section about preventing and managing your diabetes. And it does talk about counting carbohydrates, knowing, I mean, it's good that our sugars, are fruits bad? No, fruits aren't bad, but the quantity issue is, yes, we can eat too much of anything. I mean, that's just a standard answer for first place, is everything in the proper quality and quantity. And of course, if your fruit is peaches out of a can in sugar syrup, okay, that is sugar. So that's going to be different than if you were to eat a whole peach. And so those are kind of the things that we learn in first place. But also a question, if you are diabetic or pre-diabetic, I really would encourage you, you probably qualify to talk to a nutritionist who can help you answer those very specific questions.
Well, one of the things too is your simple carbs are like your sugars and grains, but they have been stripped of all the bran, fiber, and nutrients. So when you eat those things like white bread, pizza dough, pasta, pastries, your white flours, things like that, then you get a spike in your glucose, but that doesn't last. And so when it drops, you're hungry again, and you typically want the same type of foods. So your glucose levels are continuing to build, and you haven't really satisfied your body's desire for some, good bran, fiber, nutrient-rich foods.
So another question we have is about for physically challenged or disabled people. They're asking about chair yoga or other exercises that they can do this interval training or steady pace to their goal. So what are your suggestions?
Well, I am an exercise instructor for Body and Soul, so I can speak to their Gold program, which is exercise from a chair, and I can tell you it is very hard because when you're seated, you can't recruit accessory muscles to help you work a certain area. So, like if you're working your core in a chair, you're working your core. as opposed to standing up and being able to engage some of the spine muscles and things like that. So I think there's some videos still for sale that may include gold on the bodyandsoul.org. You can go there to their website, to the store, and look for some videos there. It's an excellent.
And we have 2 different videos on our website, the Moving to the Word and a Strength and Flexibility. And all of our videos include basically 3 levels: a starter level, oftentimes in the chair, and then a moderate level, and then a higher level. That's what I like about our videos, is you could just keep watching it and start at the very moderate level and then work your way up. That's one of the things that's very helpful. Those workouts last a long time because you can keep trying to do it harder. And then Body and Soul, like Diane said, they have a power strength video that they do. And then they also oftentimes sell our strength and flexibility video. So that one of our videos, Body and Soul sells, and we sell one of their videos. Another question that was asked was about green tea and non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Do you know if that's okay? That's one of the questions.
I am not aware of any contraindications. I think if I understand the question, should you drink green tea if you have any liver issues? I don't know its impact on the liver. I'm not aware of any issues.
Okay, and then the last question someone asked, is stevia okay for sweetening? And I wanted to point you to in that same managing and understanding preventing diabetes is a section on low calorie artificial sweeteners that kind of addresses using artificial sweeteners, and that starts on page 99 in the My Place for Fitness book. So just wanted to point that out. And I'll just say personally, I definitely used artificial sweeteners for a long time. When I first started, when I weighed 274 pounds, artificial sweeteners were very much a part of my life. And then slowly but surely, I got used to or accustomed to just what fresh fruit tasted like, and that became sweet enough. And then I started finding teas and things that were naturally sweetened. So that is one of the things. But every once in a while, if I have an iced coffee in the afternoon, I'll be honest, I'll add a little stevia in there. So I just want to say personally, I use stevia some, so and have. And so I think whatever works for you, and read that about it. And you also have to talk to your doctor about it too if there's a concern. Some people have some issues. Okay, I have another question about soy, and do you have any opinion on soy, Diane?
Yeah.
I think that's kind of off topic of metabolic syndrome for us. So I would say soy, I would say we would have to ask our nutritionist that question. And so I don't think we can have an answer to that today. So sorry about that. But no answer on soy. So there you go. Okay, I must have said my place for fitness instead of nutrition. So in my place for nutrition is the diabetic stuff. All right. Thank you so Diane, back to you on any more questions. We got 10 more minutes. So if you want to wrap it up or finish up.
Well, I do want to share this study because it is never, ever too late to start training. In one study of elderly men and women, y'all, their mean age was 87. They lifted weights 3 times a week for 10 weeks. And guess what happened? Their strength increased a whopping 113%. The improvement in strength enabled these elderly participants to also walk 12% faster than before the study, climb 28% more stairs, and it even caused the muscles in their thighs to increase by more than 2.5%. So what types of resistance training are best? You want to do total body resistance training, and that's just working out all areas of your body. That targets the visceral fat. Your high intensity resistance paired with cardio, and we talked about that and showed you Helen's chart. And then your tempo training, that increases the fat burning benefits of the routine because it boosts the number of mitochondria through our slow, steady movement. And I just want to share a picture of a dear friend of mine. So this is Mr. Robert and Lenora, who got married last October, and they are a motivator for me to stay healthy and even get healthier, because you never know what life may have in store for you. So when they got married, Mr. Robert's 91 and Lenora is 85, and they're happy newlyweds. So the more we implement healthy exercise habits, the more likely we are to stay strong for years. And Grace Fox shared with us at Wellness Week last year that we can age well if we keep our bodies strong. So what's your next step for staying or getting healthy?
Mm. That's a really good one. And that kind of leads into some of the questions that we have about first place. And um, a person asked about prayer. And obviously, we're sponsoring this video because of First Place for Health. And we have First Place for Health groups. We have a curriculum to help you start a group if you're not in one. I wish I had a poll that said how many people are in First Place for Health groups, because some of you may be. But if you're new to First Place for Health, I encourage you to check out our website, and we have it just says get started, and we're able to help you. We have, we'll have some virtual groups, online groups starting in April. We'll be having registration open very soon. But I just wanted to encourage you, yes, prayer is absolutely an important component of getting healthy, and being accountable, being in community with other people is also, and it is a commitment to the Lord. You know, we do it, we place Him first, and He helps us how to do it, the way to do it. I love the metabolic syndrome because just understanding it. And Diane, thank you so much, because I think it's important to know, do I have any of the risk factors? And can you remind us again, Diane, did you say if you have 3 out of the 5, is that what it is?
All right, 3 out of the 5. So that's having the large waist size of 35 or more for women, 40 or larger for men, high triglycerides of 100 or higher, the low good cholesterol, which is 40, less than 40 for women, less than 50 for men, having a high blood glucose level, which is greater than 100, and then your high blood pressure, which is greater than 130/80. So any of those 3, if you have 3 of those 5, or you're taking medication. So if you're taking something for blood pressure and you're taking something for your cholesterol, and you also have a large waist size, that's 3 of the factors. So the more you can do to counter this, you can get off of those meds and have your levels come down to normal.
Amen.
Yes.
Well, that's very true. Some of the people in my group, I've had lots of people that have lost weight in my groups that are off. I just had somebody celebrate their CPAP machine. They don't need their CPAP machine anymore, and they're almost to goal. And those are the kind of exciting things you like to hear about as people get healthier and healthier. I always was very excited to get my waist below that 35 inches. I knew the number where I used to work. They measured all those criteria. And when I worked at Aetna, we actually got a discount off of our health insurance if we didn't have metabolic syndrome, if that makes sense. If you had, so they measured all 5 of them and basically that was one of the things, is I knew that 35 inches was important. So one of the questions was, will this be available, this video? And yes, we will be having this available on YouTube. It'll be posted probably tomorrow. All of you that registered will get an email with the link tomorrow, or whenever it is we get it posted up on to YouTube, but most likely it'll be up there by tomorrow. And then another exercise question, Diane, is someone with fibromyalgia, and they're not really able to do intense exercise because it causes flare-ups. And she wanted to know if you had any suggestions.
I've got several friends with my fibromyalgia, can't even say it, and with MS and other types of chronic ailments. And some of them do water aerobics, and then some of them do what they can with it within their limitations, but they also know how far to go before it can cause additional flare-ups. And that's something that I think each person kind of has to gauge to know what works best with you. And you may just start out with something more basic, and then as you progress, if it feels okay, then continue to do more. I don't know, Helen, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, I agree. I mean, water aerobics, anything. And I think there's definitely people that come to your body and soul class. I've been in your classes with you and Vicky that have fibromyalgia. It's just, you're right. The intensity level, you have to be, aware. You have to let your fitness instructor know where you are, but it doesn't exclude you. It just, you just have to compare yourself to your progress. You're not looking, that's the important thing, is just move. And
Right.
on that one thing, I wanted to say we did have a poll, and I think this might be fun. This is a poll for all of you guys to share, like, what kind of exercises or physical activity are you doing right now? Like, and if you live in Minnesota and you would be doing this in the summer, you can do that. But it's just for you all to see when I share this poll, what is it that you all are doing? What are some activities that are happening all over with first placers? And remember, some of us, the largest thing was large waist sizes. So these are people that have large waist sizes or have high cholesterol or high glyceride, glucose. So I just kind of wanted to, get you guys to see, hey, do that. And so choose the ones that you like to do. We just thought it would be cool to see what actually do people do. So the one person said, are we going to do something about God in all of this? And yes, first place for health is placing Christ first. We derive our name from Matthew 6:33, but seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. And so that's the basis of our ministry, is to place Christ in first place. For me, walking in and saying, yes, I'm going to be in a first place for health group, I was leading a group, that was a surrender for me. That was a spiritual. For a lot of us, coming to first place, it's a spiritual commitment. We're saying, okay, God, I'm going to let you be first in this, because let's face it, I don't know. I knew something was going to happen and I was going to change. I knew that it was going to happen and I didn't want to change. But oh, goodness gracious, I'm so glad I did. 100+ pounds later, praise God. It's been 9 years now that I've been at a healthy weight, and it did take 4 years, but praise God. So yes, God needs to be in first place, in center place, in all the time. So yes to that question. All right, here's the poll. I'm sharing the results, and a few people said they're not seeing the poll, so I'm sorry. But here are the results of the polls, and it looks like number one, walking, jogging, running. We put that all together. I do a little bit of walking and jogging. But so, and we do have some people doing snowshoeing, ice skating, and skiing. We put that there because Diane definitely does that. Looks like bicycling, elliptical, stair climber, that's the second thing. So walking, oh no, strength training, weights and bands, that's the second. Way to go. I'm so proud of you guys. I am. That strength training is number 2. Woohoo! That's what we want to see. Way to go, guys. Yeah. So if anything, I just want to say, keep it up. Diane said, what did you say? We need to age well. Grace said that. That was, yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to age well. I know for me, I'll just share, my great-grandmothers lived to 100. My grandparents lived to 95 and 98. And so I'm pretty sure I'm going to be my goal is to hit 100. And so I figure I have to take really good care of myself, because I want to be walking at 100. I want to be walking around. I don't want people having to take care of me. So how's that sound?
Yeah.
Any last words, Diane?
I hope this gives a lot of you some encouragement, especially for the exercise part. I did look at a study, I think just yesterday, riding home, that showed just making changes in diet was minimal in losing weight and getting healthier. But when they added in the strength training, it increased by I think it was 7%. In that short time frame. So make sure you have a balance with the exercise and the nutritional changes together. You'll see a better outcome more quickly.
All right, we have one more question. Someone should know, if you have metabolic syndrome, is it harder to lose weight?
Not that I know of. Mm-mm.
Yeah, I think it's just hard to lose weight. It
Well,
takes work.
we put it on slowly, but we think we can take it off quickly. And your goal should be a pound to 2 pounds a week and losing that weight. So give yourself some time and pace yourself. And don't always go by the number on the scale. Look at how your clothes are fitting. They may be baggy in the hips or the waist, or other places. So kind of look at those things too, because your body could be changing before you see the numbers on the scale actually change.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to end with one more question. It's a first place for health question, and it asked, is there a new book that lists something that shows how to count food the original way? And I would tell you our My Place for Nutrition, and we're still counting the food the same way we did. There's so many fruits, there's so many grains, so many healthy oils and fruits, proteins, dairy-rich foods. So it suggests that we're counting calories, and I would say we're not counting calories. In fact, I lost all my weight not counting 1 calorie. And so I just want to say the My Place for Nutrition, it is our new book. It's in our member kit, the My Place member kit, but you can buy it separately. And it's also available on Kindle if any of you guys want to download it and have it with you wherever you go. But that's it for now. We're over time. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you, Diane, for your words of wisdom. I'm excited. And check back next month. We'll see you then. Take care.
Bye, everybody.